In this video, I'm going to talk about our internal process that helps us to build easy to support and maintain, easy scalable and high performance, stable, bug-free software solutions and apps without losing any single deadline. To come up with such process, we definitely want to reverse engineer our end goal. And our end goal as a software development agency, we want to provide the best possible service and best possible results and solutions to our clients. So what is it? Best results, because it's pretty subjective term and many different companies, many different software engineers see it differently. So in our definition, our internal definition of a good result when it comes to software product, we measure it with 5 main indicators, and let me go through every of those indicators one by one and describe what exactly we do to achieve the highest performance for every of those indicators. Let's talk about first indicator or metric, and it's delivering features exactly in the way how our clients want them to see. And while it may sound logical and very simple, in reality there are horror stories how after 2 months of work there are presentations, and during one of those presentations clients that's not what we ask you to build. That's not what we even need. What did you do all those 2 months? And if you have a vendor, software vendor who does that type of work, you definitely need to replace them because it's really easy to fix it. In other words, you just want to have shorter feedback loops. Like 1 week is probably 2 weeks is the longest, better even 1 week. You want to have a review of every work that was done every week, and also you even want to have daily short feedback loops. So for example, we deploy our code on a daily basis and expect to hear at least very short feedback if we are going in a correct direction. And in this case, even if miscommunication happens, it's just unavoidable, we still won't make a mistake longer than 1 day, sometimes maybe 2 days. Also, we definitely do prototyping, so before we start even working on it, our clients already see the prototype of work just to synchronize that we are on the same page and we do exactly what our clients expect us to do. And another thing is, of course, we have help of business analysts and project managers. So business analyst time actually is cheaper than software engineer time, so it completely makes sense to use professionals who definitely know how to communicate and how to translate business requirements into technical requirements. It will be cheaper and it will make complete sense because those miscommunications that usually happens between business owners and software engineers won't necessarily happen when you communicate with business analysts. So using these 3 main secrets like business analyst help, prototyping and short feedback loops, and you will never deliver features in a way that wasn't supposed to be delivered. We even have in our agreement specifically outlined that if our client doesn't approve feature in the way how we deliver it, our client is completely free of charge. A second metric or indicator that I want to discuss is the stability of a final product. It can be 100% bug-free. It can have some acceptable amount of bugs. It depends on what product we build. For example, if it's customer-facing solution, then of course we want to have 100% bug-free solution. If it's internal admin panel, then maybe we want sometimes have some acceptable amount of bugs just to reduce overall amount of work, reduce amount of testing, and deliver features a little bit faster, even if we accept that there we can miss some amounts of bugs. But let's discuss the most difficult case, 100% bug-free solution. It's still pretty easy, achievable, and what we need for that, we need a good quality assurance team that will consist couple of software engineers who we call developers in test, and also manual QA members. So manual QA members help you to test, retest new functionality and do it in a real time. So immediately when new features developed, you can test new functionality with the help of manual QA members, and more likely they won't miss any bugs. In some cases, some of them can come through, and we will discuss it during our third point. But let's say also we implement in some very complex feature that definitely affects any other part of our application. So we definitely can break some parts of our application that were developed, let's say, months ago. So we want to do regression testing. We want to do regression testing and retest the whole application. When our application size becomes increasingly complex and size. It's a pretty big application. It's pretty difficult to retest everything and don't miss anything. So to be sure that you have 100% bug-free solution, in this case, you have to have developers in test, who I mentioned before. Basically, it's someone who will help to cover that's the developers who don't implement new features, and their work is to cover your code with regression testing and also sometimes fixing some bugs that were eventually missed. I also feel like here is a good point to jump to a third point, and third metric is delivering on time and meeting deadlines. And it's a good point because we're talking about developers in test and they play essential role in meeting deadlines. So many software engineers will tell you that it is impossible to make accurate estimation, and I completely agree with them. It's impossible. So how do you meet deadlines? How do you accurately estimate your final sprint if you can't accurately estimate your tasks? There are a couple of tools, couple of approaches how you can cover for those mistakes in estimation that will definitely happen during development. And one of the reasons why sometimes we can make mistakes is, let's say we have a sprint we planned our sprint for 2 weeks and we almost don't have any free available slots to put any additional task there, and then we're realizing that we eventually missed something in QA and there are some couple of bugs and maybe even in production, but definitely something that we want to fix. So what do we do in this case? If we put these bugs in our sprint, we will increase it and eventually we won't meet our deadlines. That's why we have developers in test. Basically, if something was missed, it was missed in regression. By this point, it's already in regression. So developers in test not only able to and capable to find those bugs, they're able to fix them, and they will cover them with unit testing or integrational testing or UI testing. It depends on which test is appropriate for this every specific case. So this way we will avoid reducing our estimates, and we will also prevent those bugs from happening in the future, and we'll add additional regression testing. And now let's go back to the developers who still need somehow to finish their 2-week sprint or 1-week sprint in time. So even assuming that we don't have any unexpected bugs because developers in test will handle them, how can we be sure that we will deliver those 2 weeks in time when we can't be sure that we estimated everything correctly? So first thing here, we definitely want to overestimate our task a little bit. I mean, it makes sense. It's definitely unpopular opinion, especially among unexperienced clients or project managers, but if you underestimate your tasks, they still won't be delivered. They won't be delivered on time. So if I'm telling you that I will deliver some feature in 4 hours, but I'm delivering it in 8 hours, like, I'm still delivering it in 8 hours. You can't predict your budget this way. You can't make any planning. You can't promise anything to, let's say, your investors or customers who want to show some presentations. You can't rely on this type of estimation, so it wouldn't work for you because the feature will still be delivered in 8 hours. So it's better to actually overestimate tasks. There will be some mistakes. Sometimes you will finish some of the tasks faster, some of the tasks will still be delivered slower, and overall it will overcompensate. Some sprints may be delivered slower, but then another tool. After every sprint you do in retrospective, and every developer, some developers who are more experienced, they already know multiplier, that they need to multiply their standard original estimate on to be sure that the task will be delivered on time. Other developers, newer, like junior or sometimes mid-level developers, they will use those retrospections after every sprint to understand exactly which multiplier they need to use and correct it. So even if we deliver some sprint a little bit later, another sprint will be delivered a little bit faster. And again, overall, we will deliver the whole product, the whole timeline for the next, let's say, 2 months of work, maybe even 6 months of work will be delivered on time. Fourth indicator or metric is scalability of the product, and it was very difficult to achieve in the past. It's really easy to achieve nowadays because we have like tools like Docker, Kubernetes that allows you to scale. If it's set up correctly, if you have good DevOps process, it's pretty easy to scale to any, even the most unpredictable type of load. And the only thing that we need to discuss is to set up this threshold line which we want not to go above, because we can scale it to any type of load, but when we scale it, our cluster becomes a little bit more expensive. So you as a client probably don't want to go above some specific threshold, and you want to keep your budget predictable. And the fifth point is maintainability and how easy to support our code. So let's imagine, just for the sake of conversation, that our team is disappeared tomorrow. How easy it will be for you to find new developers, how easy for them it will be to work with existing code base, add new functionality. So you definitely don't want to use old technologies. You want step-by-step updating from time to time your technologies, even if it takes time, even if it takes some budget. You definitely want to do it because eventually you can end up in a situation that you can't find new good developers to work with your code base, or it's very difficult to find them and they are very expensive. On the other hand, you also don't want to use newest technologies, maybe even some shiny and very popular tool, but they just a couple of years on the market. That's a very high risk to use them, and there is a chance that this technology in reality just isn't production ready. Like one of the examples, the first version of Angular, and some inexperienced teams tried to use first version of Angular in a product that required search engine optimizations. And first version of Angular even didn't support any server-side rendering. In other words, it wasn't optimized for search engine optimizations. So you definitely don't want to do such type of mistakes. Another thing to avoid different types of mistakes is to having pull requests inside of the team and also having external audits. And we always, for external audits, I mean, it's a critique. Some people don't like critique, but we handled it well. We know that it's something that's necessary for our growth. And if we made some mistakes, we are ready to admit them and to fix them. So external audits, we have our own partner companies who helps us with it. Also, we are ready to use your own company. If you have your own company or partner or just maybe freelancer software engineer who you know who ready to complete external audit with both hands for it, it never hurts to have additional couple of eyes going through the same code base and giving their feedback. So eventually, many people who are watching this video will just tell it's a simple agile, there is nothing new. And it's true, and we are not inventing a wheel here. We do a simple agile, we not overcomplicate our processes, but on another hand, for the small teams like ours, we have many different distributed small teams. It's much better to have this simplistic process, not overcomplicated. Don't have like 3 managers for 2 developers like it's in corporate systems. And in corporations, when you have thousands of people who you need to manage, you just have to have this corporate ladder. But it eventually slows them down, and this ability to be that simple, that agile helps us to deliver much faster than big corporations do. So we keep it simple, less bureaucracy, more actual work done, and we monitoring those 5 metrics and indicators, and unless there is something wrong with them, then we are not overcomplicating our process. Basically, to be sure that our client's happy with exactly what we are doing, our solution's stable and bug-free, it's easy to scale them, there is no delays in deadlines, and we deliver in everything on time and in budget that promised, and it's easy to support and good quality code. I guess that's exactly what our clients are looking for, and that's what we deliver here with the help of our process.